Welcome back to Rad City Resin. In today's video, I headed back to the Dollar Tree to explore even more upcycling ideas. The shelves were absolutely stocked this week, so come along and see what I got. So this is going to be a little impromptu video to show you a couple of the things that I recently bought at Dollar Tree. I like who doesn't love going to Dollar Tree? There's always so many cool things there, so many cool ideas, and there's lots of groups and YouTube channels that make stuff using things from the Dollar Tree, and it's always mind-blowing, just how many different things that people come up with and use items in ways that you would never guess. So I thought I'd show you a couple of the projects I have coming up. And maybe I'll even do one as part of this video. So I went yesterday, I spent about $14, and this is everything I got. So I love using these little finger protectors. They are super helpful when you're dealing with sticky items, resin. I wouldn't use these to do a full resin project, but if it's something where I'm just kind of like smoothing items out, or if I'm using UV resin gel, these are perfect for that. And they just fit right on your fingers. I actually have quite a few of them that I've used in the past. They're in that little box over there, but you can never really have enough of them. So I actually bought 4 packs. And they fit super well. They're very stretchy, so they allow you to really kind of, wear them on whatever finger you need them for. And these are always a good buy. I also bought these. I have so many different glitters and mica powders and things of that nature, and I love mixing mica powders and glitter together. So like this is a mixture that I created from a few different glitters. This one's glitter and mica powder. So having some of these on hand is always helpful, and you can reuse them. They fit really nicely. I couldn't find any of these little boxes at Dollar Tree yesterday, but they have these awesome boxes that have these little lids, and these fit very nicely right into those boxes. So I love these little boxes. Again, these boxes are also normally at Dollar Tree, but I couldn't find any. So they come in 2 sizes. These larger ones and then these little tiny ones, and I love these. I always try to pick up a few when I go, because you just never know when you're gonna get some new glitter and you want to take it out of the packaging, because normally glitter comes in like an envelope or something. This gives you the opportunity to have it in a nice little storage box. Tends to be a tiny bit less messy. This is a cool little tray in the school section, and it's actually designed for if you're painting. So there's some little wells over here on the side. You put your item here to paint, and I thought this would be a great little house for doing things with alcohol inks. Like sometimes I'll put clear acetate down and then do a layer of alcohol, spray it with alcohol, and then drop in alcohol ink. And I thought this would be a nice, easy way to do that. And then while it dries, I can just close this, set it aside, and come back to it once it's dry. So I'm looking forward to using this. I think it'll definitely come in handy. And for $1.25, it's pretty, I wouldn't say it's super sturdy, but it's sturdy enough. So I'm excited for that. Very cool. And it's my favorite color as well. They also have vinyls that you can use for your Cricut machine. This is kind of that. I think that's what this is for. These were only 50 cents, and I bought them because they're kind of like a faux leather finish. So I have an idea of how to make another jewelry display using these. So I'll show you what I'm gonna do with that. And I think that this is like in my head, this looks really cool. So we'll see how it actually turns out. For that, I also bought this photo frame, cheap little photo frame. It's acrylic. It's, you know, nothing fancy, but my plan is to use this to make a jewelry display. And then I also have this, which I plan to do the same with. So these are always kind of funky because they don't sit perfectly. But I think I have a way around fixing that. So hopefully that will work out, but I'll show you what I plan to do with these here in a little bit. Quick shout out to Lana Mimes 8759 for this week's project inspo. If you have a project idea, tell me about it in the comments. While you're there, like and subscribe for a new tutorial each week. If you're already subscribed, send this video to a friend that you think would enjoy it. For my first display, I'm going to use this spice rack. I'll start by using masking tape to cover each shelf. This is a technique that's commonly used when making an armature for a sculpture or in costume building. It basically helps to create a level surface. I made sure that I used pieces long enough to wrap around to the underside and that I overlapped each strip. I also covered the front edge of each platform because I wanted to make sure I had one cohesive looking piece. There are so many ways for you to use this technique, and the more tape you use, the more sturdy it's going to be. My plan was to use this crushed velvet ribbon to cover my masking tape, but I didn't have enough to fully dress the shelves. I pulled out some nice pink cardstock. I used my paper trimmer to cut strips of the cardstock to be roughly the width of each of the shelves. I attached each cardstock strip to the masking tape using some crafter's glue. This stuff can be a little tricky to work with, but if you press down hard and roll quickly, you can usually get a pretty nice long strip of glue to work with. I really loved how the pink looked behind the velvet ribbon, but I felt like the front of each ledge needed a little bit more razzle dazzle. I pulled out this sparkly cardstock from the same pack as my first sheet. Both of this pack came from Michael's, and then I trimmed it down to size to fit over that first shelf, with a little bit of overhang to curl up over the edge of the shelf above. At this point, I thought this was coming along nicely, but I noticed that there were some little gaps at the edges of where the cardstock strips met, and I knew I needed to hide those edges. I had some rhinestone rope, and I also had some twine, neither of which looked right to me. So instead, I used strips of this thin black ribbon. It was perfect to fit along the edge while not being distracting. Finally, I laid my velvet ribbon across each platform. I love how this turned out. It's so cute, and you could dress this up in a ton of different ways, different colors or ribbon for every season. And I think this would make a really great addition to your craft booth for your upcoming markets. You could even attach a few of these together to create a longer shelf. There's really just no limit to what you could do with this. For my second project, I used this plastic photo frame and the faux leather. I started by wrapping the leather around the frame. I tucked one edge under the fold on the back of the frame to hold it in place. I stretched it around to the bottom edge, then clipped it into place. I knew I needed some sort of adhesive to keep the cloth from moving, and I tried using hot glue, but the glue didn't seem to want to stick to that cloth. Ultimately, I used some E6000 to hold it in place. I literally couldn't get my tube of E6000 open because the cap was glued in place, so I had to cut it open and empty it into this little plastic cup. But that made it easier for me to use my spatula to smooth it onto the frame in a thin, even layer. I did this for all the flat surfaces, then held everything in place using clips. I let this dry for about 2 hours and then came back to it. I slowly and carefully folded in each edge, then used the E6000 glue to fix everything together. Again, I added clips all around the outside to keep everything held together while my glue dried. So it had the look that I was going for, but when I laid some of my heavier bracelets on them, it just slid down a bit, and I knew that I kind of needed something that was going to act as a stopper for those heavier pieces. I decided to use this little silicone cup to create some knobs. This cup actually came with my Let's Resin UV resin purchase, and you can find the exact one I bought down in the description below. I poured a thin layer of resin into the bottom of the cup, letting it settle so I could pop any bubbles that rose to the top. I cured this for about 1 minute, then poured in another layer of resin, and I added in a pinch of gold mica powder, then stirred gently to mix it as well as possible while trying not to create any bubbles. If bubbles happen, that's totally fine. Nothing in this world is perfect. But for the sake of trying to make it look like a little metal button, I tried to avoid the bubbles as much as possible. I cured this layer for about 3 minutes, being sure to aim from the bottom of the cup as well as the top to make sure that the whole thing cured very nicely. I made sure not to fill the cup too far to reach the spout so that my shape wouldn't warp, but finally I added one last layer of pure resin, then cured it all really, really well. I let the piece cool down completely before I demolded it. I always try to avoid touching my resin pieces while they're warm because UV resin tends to stay soft and will be a little bit sticky or tacky as long as it's warm. Once it's cool, you should not have that problem anymore. The surface of the inside of this cup had like a matte or dull finish to it, so that meant that my little knob would also have that same finish. If the inside of the mold was shiny, my piece would have also been shiny. Now there's a time and a place for a matte piece, but I wanted this one to be extra sparkly, so I used a little bit of UV resin to add back the shine. I made sure I cured this really well and set it aside to cool down. I made 3 of these little buttons, and then I cut a few strips of double-sided Gorilla Tape to add them to my display. This double-sided tape is extremely sticky and strong, so really I only had one chance to get it to stick, in the right place. It would be a great idea to use some masking tape or something, some chalk maybe, to mark exactly where you want it to go. But your girl likes to live dangerously, so I went in with absolutely no plan, and that's kind of the story of my life. So these little knobs were perfect for hanging my bracelets and even a necklace. I really love how it turned out. I do, however, think I might paint the cloth black because this blue color isn't exactly my aesthetic. I hope you found these tutorials useful and that you're inspired to try some Dollar Tree upcycling. If you do, reach out and show me. I'd love to see it. Go make something awesome this week, and as always, stay rad. If you enjoyed this Dollar Tree project, check out this video for even more ideas.